The big political story at this hour. Now, a tweet by suspended Congress worker Sanjay Jha has alleged that over 100 members, including MPs of the Congress party, have written to the president demanding elections for the Congress Working Committee. The Congress party has been quick to deny Sanjay Jha's tweet and say that this was just an attempt to divert from the main issue of social media, in particular the WhatsApp and Facebook story of working towards helping the BJP and its agenda. Let's bring out the tweet by Sanjay Jha for you. He says, it is estimated that around 100 Congress leaders, including MPs, distressed at the state of affairs within the party, have written a letter to Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, the Congress president, asking for change in political leadership and transparency in elections in the Congress Working Committee. Remember, Sanjay Jha was sacked as a spokesperson of the Congress party last month after he publicly criticized the party in a turmoil over Sachin Pilot's revolt. Now, in response to this tweet that came from Sanjay Jha, came this tweet by Mr. Surjewala. He says, to whom it may concern, special misinformation group on media TV debate guidance, quote unquote, in its WhatsApp of today directed to run a story of a non-existent letter of Congress leaders to divert attention from Facebook BJP links. Of course, BJP stooges, he says, have started acting upon it. Now, to get to the heart of this story, we actually have the man of the hour, Sanjay Jha, joining us on the phone line. Sanjay, let me just cut the chase for you. Do you have the letter? Does it exist?
Sonal, first and foremost, because I have been accused by the Congress party, of which I'm a suspended member, I need to be very categorical here that this has got nothing at all to do with the Bharatiya Janata Party at all. To make it appear as if this is a political conspiracy and I'm like, some kind of a BJP stooge or a BJP mole is an absurd, atrocious charge. I mean, this is preposterous to the core. And I would like everyone who's watching your NDTV program to kindly go and read my Twitter bio description, where I clearly say that I am a Congressee by DNA, which I'm very proud to be. And perhaps I'm more Congressee by DNA than the persons who are publicly coming out and making accusations against me. Now, let me answer your question. The letter has been written. The letter is 100% authentic. The information that I tweeted out, I did so with complete and full responsibility. I am fully aware that it was given to the Congress President's office in the last 10 to 12 days, and no response has yet come in. And I also would like to add that the letter is, in my opinion, a very democratically written letter. These are political veterans. These are people who have fought for the Congress over the last several decades. These are the people who will probably contribute to the Congress comeback. They are all aggrieved and anguished and extremely in deep angst at the state of the Congress party. They all want the Congress party to do well. Everyone who signed on the letter is a well-wisher of the Congress party like I am. So I fail to understand as to why in a democratic protest written in the form of a letter, I would not even call it a protest. It's almost like a plea to say, can we get the Congress party going? And I really don't understand why there should be, such a great hullabaloo about it from the Congress response from what I'm seeing today. Because you can't live in denial no matter how much you try to ignore facts. They don't cease to exist.
Sanjay Jha, the Congress party has denied the existence of the letter. They've said on record now that this letter just simply does not exist. So I ask you again, do you have the letter? Could you share who are these people who have actually signed it?
Well, Sonal, in all honesty, it would be politically very unethical of me to make any disclosure of the names or the content of the letter per se. But if you look at my tweet, it does broadly insinuate as to what the core messages are. And what are the core messages? One, which I'm sure even you will agree with me, Sonal, that the Congress party, the grand old party, which is, despite its 52 seats, one of the biggest bulwarks against the BJP's, very mighty 303 seats, we have no defined leader who's going to take us till 2024. And for the past year and plus, there has been a complete leadership vacuum. Which is, frankly speaking, awful for a party that has to, restore democracy or fight for India's constitutional rights. Number two, it does talk about the fact that there should be very open, translucent elections to the most powerful body within the Congress, which is the Congress Working Committee. Instead of people being appointed by the Congress president, a majority of them have to be basically elected by the internal electoral process, which is done through the AICC elected members. The third point, and very important point, is having greater, internal democracy, which is what people like us are fighting for, because we do recognize that, the current Mr. Modi's government has really failed in the economy. It's been a disaster on multiple fronts, including the pandemic. Hasn't been able to even look at national security issues with China. But if you have a non-performing Mr. Modi's government, which is fairly aggressive, authoritarian, you need the Congress to stand up and fight. And I think if 100 leaders, 98 leaders, 102 leaders, and all of us are actually telling the Congress party to buckle up and get our act together, how can that be seen as
Sanjay Jha, when you say
anti-party activity?
When you say change in leadership, what exactly does this letter call for? Is it asking for a non-Gandhi to lead the party? It is asking for democratic elections? Is it asking for Rahul Gandhi to come back? What is the change in leadership that the letter is looking for?
Well, Sonal, frankly, after Mr. Gandhi resigned, he himself indicated very categorically that he does not want to come back. And he went on record to say he does not want any member of the Gandhi family to come back. Now, why the Congress Working Committee did not take a decision for a year is something that is very, very intriguing and, it belies logic. Because, even Mrs. Gandhi, when she became the interim president, she did so under compulsion and in very extraordinary circumstances. But for the Congress party to keep living with that status quo is politically unwise and imprudent, because it's damaging our prospects amongst the people of India. And what we are saying, I think what everybody has probably said in the letter, is that have a transparent election. I mean, even let's assume hypothetically that even if Mr. Gandhi were to fight an election, would like to come back, he can fight an election and win it. I'm sure he's very, very popular. Nobody's going to even deny that. But the party needs to adhere to the standards and to its own internal ethos that currently seems to have vaporized.
All right. And Sanjay Jha, when you say hold elections democratically within, are there names that have been proposed in this letter? And when you say that it has already reached Priyanka Gandhi, if I heard you correct, do you have a confirmation, or any of the people whom you say have signed that letter have a confirmation that it was actually received?
Well, I can tell you one thing, that the people who have signed the letter are people that, in general, the public, the media, I personally believe they are people who have got the interest and the concern of the Congress at heart. I mean, these are people who are truly having solicitude, they have affection, and they would like the Congress party to bounce back at the earliest. And I'm sure that at the right time they will all publicly come out and, take their posture. I'm sure they will do that. But technically I should not be making any disclosures at all. But I would like to say that these are people that the Congress party, I'm sure, deeply respects. And I do hope that they will be heard.